this video game. It's such a bad video game. Oh my god.
It is.
I feel like
It
we
is such a
played
bad
the
video
Drake of
game.
the 99 Dragons of Final Fantasy games, and I am Cassidy, who is now a card-carrying member of the Drake of the 99 Dragons cult.
Jeff, I love
it.
Can you talk?
Hi, I'm gonna talk. I'm talking. Still talking.
I see Craig seeing you.
Of the 99 dragons, ride the dragon, and there's 99.
Okay, here we go. Countdown.
Okay, man, are you ready to go? I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this.
I have to go to the bathroom.
Are you kidding?
Hurry.
No. I was waiting for Jeff for a long time. Can I go to the bathroom real quick?
Yes, you asshole.
I'm not the asshole. I'm...
Better be going to the bathroom. He'd better not be wearing his headset as he goes to the bathroom. That's the other thing I need him to not do.
Why not?
Okay.
All right, ready?
Wait, let me get a blanket. Hold.
Okay. Countdown. Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens. And today we are going to be discussing Final Fantasy Type 0, aka Final Fantasy Agito 13. And joining me, as always, to discuss all things Final Fantasy 1, Chris ZombiePie Redacted. How you doing, Chris?
I'm following the advice of our current Director of Health in the United States. I'm picking my nose and eating the boogers to boost my immune system.
Great. We are also joined, as always, by Jeff Rud. How you doing, Jeff?
Hi. Marshall said Alstein leads the army of Milites against other nations of Orients, launching a devastating attack against the Vermilion Peristyllium and neutralizing the Vermilion bird crystal using a crystal jammer. Is one of the worst sentences I have seen at the opening of a Wikipedia article in my entire life. And I have been looking at Wikipedia for about 20 years.
It's so good. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good.
Yuck.
Sorry, is that not brand safe to say the F word?
It's fine. Yeah, so Type 0, before we get into it, normal plugs, you can get in touch with the show, deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. That's our email address, and deeplistens.libsyn.com. We are comment sections there. You can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. We have hit our 50 sub goal, so Duke Nukem Forever coming soon. The 10-year anniversary show. Actually, by the time you hear this, that might have already happened. But we will get what our next donation goal is at 60 subs at some point. We'll need to figure out what the next awful game is. And Off the Deep End is going to be playing Lunar Dragon Song.
Yep.
ZP, how are you looking forward to that?
This is a real, not whose dick is bigger, it's whose dick is getting punched harder. I think that ours is getting punched real hard, real fast, multiple blows. Now I'm puked myself.
Speaking of puke yourself, are you going to be doing some sort of food thing?
Don't you normally do the plugs? You yell at me when I do something like...
I did the plugs. This is me smoothly transitioning.
You're
did a smooth transition and you ruined it.
You're being really testy today. I don't know why you decided that you need to be so hostile after all three of us had to rescind our resignation letters, like for a certain website that brought us together almost as family. That's some lore for all of you. So the first thing is going to be alcohol, because like if there's something that I know that mixes well, it's the motion blur in this video game and adult libations. I don't do that. All right, so we got another sour. This is called a Dream Patch Fruited Sour. This is going to be a cherry, blueberry, and raspberry sour. 6.5% alcohol. What does this say? Oh, god damn it! I bought something that's organic. Yet, fucking hippies. All right, I'm gonna drink this. Ooh, that tastes kind of like a milkshake. Like not a milkshake, a smoothie, kind of like those Jamba juices. I think that the blueberry is a bit of these three fruits: cherry, blueberry, and raspberry. The blueberry is definitely coming out stronger than the other three.
This is a sour. This is a beer.
Yeah. Jeff, do you want to explain what a sour is while I consume this?
Yeah, it's a beer that's sour.
And usually it's got fruit in it.
Yeah, that's good. I think the last one I liked a little bit more because it had less of a. This has a bit more of the. You can definitely taste the hops stronger, and I think that with sours, usually the fruit is meant to undercut that, which might actually be for those of you that like an IPA or a lager. This might actually be a good option for you. That's a 4. Now, the second thing, slightly afraid about this thing. Now, it's not what you think. It's not like some sort of horrible thing. So I'm eating food that came from my school's cafeteria that the kids say they don't like.
Okay.
And it's dried peaches. Diced and dried peaches. And I don't know if this is like some sort of like weird technique to try and get these kids to eat fruit, but I'll post these here. They've done some sort of weird, let's say, PR. So the bag is called Hello, I'm Ugly, and it's dried peaches.
Huh.
Oh.
That's not a good name.
Okay, so here they are. Hello, I'm Ugly. Oh, man, it smells weird. Okay, did I accidentally get a expired bag? Okay, nope, February 2027.
No, this is good forever.
Oh, God, did they not add any sugar to this shit? Oh, goodness. It looks like fucking dried fish.
Okay.
I don't like how this looks. So I'm okay with dried fruit, especially, let's say, like a dried apple, or especially like crystallized pineapple, and even like dried mangoes are good for me. These look weird even for dried fruit. I'm going to send you guys a picture. They smell bad. Okay, I guess I'm going to eat these. Let's put more in my mouth. No. No. No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Does it need the extra? Does it need added sugar and it just doesn't have it?
It's not just that. They're so small that they really gum up on your teeth.
Ah.
That's not pleasant. They're just such small little pieces that it really does just feel bad on the teeth. And it just doesn't feel good. It also just, it's not a lot of flavor. Like peaches have good flavor. Don't get me wrong. I could eat a peach for hours. But they're like such small little slices that they really just don't taste good. That's going to get a 2.5. I'm going to go below average. Like not pleasant. So Final Fantasy Type 0. Jeff,
and those
do you
are
have
two
something?
foods. Those are two foods that you've eaten. Type 0. ZP, you seem enthused. What is this?
So it's odd that we're talking about Type 0 because this is a game that in a lot of ways, talking about the background and like what led to this, like why this game took forever to be made, and everything surrounding its development is so much more interesting and compelling to talk about than the actual game itself. So this game was announced alongside most of the Final Fantasy 13 games, almost simultaneously with, I forget if it was 13.2 or actually OG Final Fantasy 13. But the Fabula Nova Crystallis project, a sub-series of Final Fantasy games linked by their common mythos of Lassie, Seath, and this kind of pantheon of gods. This game dates all the way back to 2005. And it was originally called Agito 13 and was meant to be the final original Fabula Nova Crystallis game. It was intended to be a mobile game after the popularity of Before Crisis Final Fantasy VII. The person who was the kind of lead behind this was Hajime Tabata, who is a director for Square, who previously worked on Luminous Productions and is currently the CEO of Square Enix's Japanese games division. So Tabata is big. And kind of like the 13 franchise was his big thing. And to a degree, when the whole Final Fantasy 15 fiasco happened to where all of his planned DLC for that game got canceled, he resigned and started Japanese games, which he made that mobile game that was themed to the 2020 or Summer Olympics. He gets basically the team that was the PSP division of Square Enix to work on this project, Jito 13, and they had planned a release on the next generation of mobile phones, both those that were domestic in Japan as well as phones that were more popular in the United States. Now, this is a weird thing to say, but back in 2005, 2006, when they were busy working on this game, Android had not taken over the world. So actually planning which mobile phones you were going to support and which OSs you wanted to support was kind of a big deal. And the market was even more fragmented and weird in Japan because there were specific phones that were very popular in Japan only. And that is part of the reason why mobile phone emulation is so weird and janky with Japanese mobile games. Isn't that right, Jeff?
Indeed. All sorts of fun, separate standards.
Yep, separate standards. This is where like region locking is a huge problem. It's a mess.
And that's why it's weird to play before Crisis.
Tabata just kept having this mobile game project have ballooning budgets, ballooning development, and part of the problem was the fact that he was told to use this mobile division. And the problem is with that is that Crisis Core was still being supported in Japan. So half the team had to actively work on a video game that was still getting episodic content. And the other half of the team had to make a full-on mobile game that had the same kind of like scope and sequence, which is episodic format, continual story, and also you have to have the production values and this kind of like mobile engine version of the 13 engine. So by 2008, again, started in 2005, they were having, I would say, production overflow problems. Tell me if you've heard this one before, boys. A video game project expanded in scope and became kind of a money pit for Square Enix.
Can't believe it. Not Square Enix.
Okay, so
A well-run company.
So Agito 13, again, is supposed to be a mobile phone game. And they were like, okay, so it's going to be an online RPG with fully rendered 3D graphics. And it's going to be like console-like graphics was apparently the key word for them. In 2008 phones. Okay? Now, we can kind of sort of do that with our phones today. This is 17 years ago where, you know, that would have probably drained the battery on your phone in like not even 10 minutes.
Assuming that they could even do it.
Yeah. So that was kind of a problem. And then also, apparently someone on Tabata's team, I don't know if it was Yusuke Nora or Tetsuya Nomura, thought that, well, what if we had this whole SP system, which we'll talk about when we get into it, and that these little avatars that can jump in to help you when you're having a hard time, what if they were actual players and the game was actually an MMORPG? 2008 mobile phone. Okay? So it expanded in scope. It has now gone way over budget, and they start to realize that, wait, I don't think we can actually fit this into a phone game. By 2008, no one knows the full story. They pick up the phone, probably call Sony, and ask if they're interested in a PSP exclusive, and that it would be a Final Fantasy game. And so, Type 0 goes from being a mobile phone game to a PSP exclusive, and the mobile version of the game basically got scrapped. part of the reason is that they realized that the game that they were making could not actually fit on the mobile technology, and that they would basically need to finish the game and then wait for mobile technology to catch up to what they had created. So instead, and this is the crazy part, they took this mobile game architecture and then ported it to a PSP. And most of the team that did that was the Third Birthday team. So we've gone from Square Enix Mobile to the Third Birthday team, which was the PSP team. And then they changed the name of the game because they felt like the Final Fantasy 13 name had kind of become slightly toxic. And then also they didn't want Final Fantasy 13's production values and expectations to be grafted onto a game that had very little in common with this shared mythos. And then also, 13 sold real well, in part because of its multi-platform release. The actual game itself is a whole different issue. Apparently, one of the ideas was to rename this game to Final Fantasy Live, to kind of refer to its multiplayer element.
Ugh.
And they changed that back to Type 0, Final Fantasy Type 0. And they decided to keep the handful of new things that they added, not in complete replacement of the Fabula Nova Crystallis mythos stuff.
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, there's a Fabula Nova Crystallis bumper, which at this point, we're playing the Type 0. It didn't come to America until it came out on PS4, right? And that generation of consoles.
Okay, so now we've kind of reached the weird part. We didn't actually play Type 0 because Type 0 is a video game that released only in Japan and on the PSP. What we played was Type 0 HD. So all of those SP units are no longer multiplayer. They're not like Street Pass characters that are actual player-controlled characters. They're AIs that are kind of similar to the AI companion system or the trusts in Final Fantasy XI. And most of the port work was done by Hexadrive, who had previously collaborated with Square Enix with the Third Birthday. And they're probably best known for doing the HD remaster of Okami and The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Long story short with this is that they were originally thinking, Square Enix, of making a high-definition port on their own, and they were aiming for the 8th generation of consoles. But then they realized, oh shit, all hands on deck, we actually need to finish Final Fantasy 15. A game that we have previously talked about, but was also kind of messy. And then the other Fabula Nova Crystallis mobile game that actually did come out for mobile phones was a fucking disaster. At least getting it out and the whole Final Fantasy 13 versus situation. Kind of a fucking mess. They were kind of originally aiming for the PS3 and Xbox 360, and then when Sony realized that, or proved to them that they could actually make a console that wasn't just a bunch of broken promises, and the PS4 ended up being a top 5 best-selling console in the history of video games, they're like, okay, I think this is just going to be easier if we aim for the PS4. And for whatever reason, this is some sort of Mandela effect. Despite the fact that people are convinced that there is a Type 0 Vita port, this never existed. This was apparently a rumor that was on the forums, especially on Japan. This never was an idea. They knew that they could make the HD game for the Vita.
Which is odd, because when you play the PS4 version, it sure looks like it could play on a Vita.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you noticed this, but this is DirectX 11. Which, using DirectX 11 for a PS4 game, kind of a funny thing. But anyways, they ended up replacing the Crystal. This is the real weird thing, is Hexadrive was like, hey, yeah, this Crystal engine sucks shit. It runs poorly and it fucking sucks. So they actually took Type 0, ripped out the guts, and actually replaced with their own in-house engine. So that they could just run the game on DirectX 11. By hook or by crook, as much as I think that this game looks like shit, this game originally output at 480 by 272 pixels, and Hexadrive, it's not a great looking game. we're going to talk about this. They took a 480 by 227 game to be at least 1080p. So, yeah, the poly count, it's higher. It doesn't look great all the time, but they did the best they could. And yeah, like one of the biggest decisions that they had to make was like, yeah, we're not going to do this online MMO shit. Like, this is just way too much of a fucking pain in the ass. And they put in better graphics and that type of stuff. So this game's bad, guys.
Yeah.
It sure is.
This game's real fucking bad. But
It's so my hot perspective of this game that I spent time with legally, I can say that it's legally true, is I've heard for a very long time. Well, I guess even to go further, I don't know which one of these happens first, so it doesn't really matter which one I say. I have heard you and other individuals say for a very long time that this game is a vomit rocket. This makes y'all want to puke. Not in like a it's real bad way, but in like a it's visually disorienting. I mean, yeah, that too. I've heard this for a very long time. And I am not one who's particularly prone to motion sickness, so I kind of didn't really anticipate this being a problem. I have been proven wrong to an extent. I don't experience it that badly, but I do. And at a very basic level, the act of like engaging with this game makes one sick, including one such as myself who generally doesn't experience that. The other thing is I've been anticipating this day for a very long time because this is one of the games that a certain retailer called Amazon.com would let you buy a physical copy of for about $5 pretty regularly. And as a physical media jerk-off, at least for a while, that was pretty appealing. So that and my copy of, I think, Left Alive, another Square banger, were both in the like $3 to $5 mark to get hard copies of. And this one's going out the door pretty much as soon as this is done being recorded. Because she stank. She bad. It's a bad one.
This game... Look, I hear you. I absolutely hear you.
I also got motion sickness the first time I played this game pretty bad. And I also do not experience it very frequently. I think secret, and we're not the first people who you've probably heard this from, the camera is in too tight. It is also very jittery, and there is also a lot of motion blur on everything. And it just makes you feel like you're drunk. It makes you feel like you're not in control of what you're looking at in a way you want to be.
But are you playing the game on normal speed or 3 times speed?
Normal.
Oh, you guys are weirdos. I think that normal speed is too slow. I have no problem with the motion blur on normal speed, but I find the game so slow to play on its default speed that I'm playing at triple speed, and that's the only time when I feel like the motion blur is overwhelming.
No, I think just actually turning the camera in this game to an extent. And it's a function of some of its blur, but some of it's just that camera is cranked, I want to say about 6 inches from the back of your player's skull. And there's not a way, as best I can tell, to change that relationship, like ontological relationship, basically.
The field of view is very tight. And also, as you put it, Jeff, your player character takes up 10% of the screen, at least 20% of the screen, something like that, because you're in so tight. And depending on what kind of character you're controlling, it can be more or less than that. And that is just too close. It is too close. Since it's a PSP game, also, like, all of the rooms are super tiny.
It's a series of narrow corridors for the most part, too. Like, the level design in this game, the even more insulting thing is when it starts to repeat the same cookie cutter fucking towns.
Yeah.
Oh boy, guys!
It's almost instantaneous.
I cackled in glee when like the second level where you're fighting dudes is like the same copy paste town that you just did. It's so funny. Like, okay, Braden has coined a term, and I'm going to use this. Not so much that you guys find me annoying, but he's used this term called Vita stank, which is late era handheld games that tried to pretend that they were console games. But boy, they got that Vita stank to where they're a portable game. Don't you fucking kid me. You're a portable game. Don't fucking pretend to be a console game. Like that Vita stank. This game's got some Vita stank.
Yeah, it's like you pull the mask off the Scooby-Doo character, and it's just a PlayStation Vita under a hat, you know?
And of course, this is like an OG PSP game. So
it's PSP, so it's even smaller.
Yeah.
It's even smaller. The environments are even smaller. The amount of distance you can cover before you have to load is so small. Every character model, when you walk up to someone to talk to them, is incredibly low definition.
But your characters aren't, and it's
your characters aren't
weird. It's such a weird thing. It reminds me of kind of like the weird juxtaposition in visuals with the Final Fantasy VIII port that they remastered, but they didn't do a great job. And then also some of the jankier parts of the Final Fantasy X remaster is you can see the characters oscillate between like multiple different definitions.
Yeah, there are characters
high
who
and low
deserve
poly.
to be up-resed, and there are characters who did not. And this game is like that. There are some, like most of the NPCs are still low-res models, and your characters are high-res models, but they are attacking enemies that are low-res. It's a mess. It's a visual mess. But at the very least, the story makes sense.
No, we should talk about this combat system. I'm going to hit pause on this. Yeah, I think we should talk about the combat system because the story is such a fucking garbled mess that this ends up being more of a mechanical experience. The problem is that the mechanics suck.
I would say this game aspires to be a Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
It's something you're going to play on the bus or on the train for 20 minutes or so, mindlessly killing stuff.
So it's essentially an action role-playing game. I would say the thing here that is interesting is that it's a much more honest action role-playing game than, say, Final Fantasy 13, which was a plate-spinning simulation game, as you've coined, Gino. So you can just like run into combat with whichever characters you enjoy playing. You have 14 characters to pick from, and this is the annoying thing. You better pick carefully at the start before you leave or start a mission, leave the school that these kids live in, because you can't switch your characters on the fly, which is the dumbest fucking shit. In a game with 14 characters, not being able to hot swap your characters when you feel like, oh, wait, I actually don't like this character. Oh, wait, I got to go back and lose time to swap them out. This sucks.
Even worse than that is that with your characters, they do not share an experience pool. So if they are not, if you do not have a character in combat, they just do not level. So the game encourages you to keep 14 discrete characters, of which you can have 3 involved in combat at a time, at a similar level.
So to add insult to injury, in the original game, and I pulled up a video of this, there was no overworld. You just actually used an airship and went to locations and had to power up the airship with fuel to avoid. Really? Yeah.
Like running around on the world map, getting random battles?
There was no running around stuff because they couldn't program the overworld. So in our version of the game, they got rid of the airship and replaced it with an overworld. And it's the worst fucking thing. There's 2 problems here.
I mean, the overworld also sucks, just so you know, dear listener. You don't want to play the overworld in the HD
so
version.
the overworld is bad in that it doesn't let you save in the overworld. You have to still rely on the sparsely placed save crystals, which is some horse shit. Because like the whole point of Final Fantasy is you can save on the overworld. And then 2, the random encounter rate is all over the place. There are parts where it feels like it's every 2 steps. There are parts where it's like, I need this specific thing to spawn to complete a fetch quest. Why is nothing spawning anymore? The good news is that you can get chocobos to avoid the random encounters in the HD game. And
but they're single use.
They're single use, and they sometimes fuck off before you get to your location. The good news is that there is a breeding mechanic, and it's pretty easy to get chocobos that last a little bit longer, but even they are single use. The combat itself, this is kind of like the realization that I've made in playing this game, and I've clearly played this game more than either of you combined. This is a dodge roll based video game. This is a game that takes the Z targeting system from The Legend of Zelda, and that is its whole milieu. That is its whole modus operandi. Because once you realize that all of the environments in which you fight things are like circular arenas with maybe a few pieces of foliage or scenery in between, it is lock on the enemy, dodge, 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 and then attack when a little red or yellow icon pops up to do critical damage. And that's all the combat really becomes. You can do damage when you are not getting those breaks, whether they're the kill strikes or the clear breaks, whatever they're called. You can do damage outside of that. And there are times when you can just completely kill an enemy without doing those like vulnerable frames of animation. But almost similar to like Lightning Returns, though at least there's an icon that makes a little audio cue. Sometimes these windows of opportunity are not very clearly telestrated. And
I mean, you need to be locked on.
You need to be locked on.
It won't tell you.
So it's better than Lightning Returns in that, whereas you're like literally counting frames, hoping that you can pick up on these little cues. But in this game, yeah, it's a dodge roll game. This is a game that's almost Diablo, but what if you had to worry about Z targeting and dodge rolls?
Yeah, so
and that's kind of it. Having 14 characters sounds cool. The problem is now you have 14 inventories to manage, and that sucks a lot of shit.
Yeah, updating and upgrading that many inventories, even in a game that you're like enjoying, yuck.
Jeff, which characters did you gravitate towards of the class?
Jeez, the chain whip person.
7.
She's real good.
Yeah, she's probably the one I got most comfortable with. I'll tell you the one I didn't like virtually at all. It was the one that they start you off with, Ace.
No, you're wrong.
I mean, you don't need to like him.
Let's dig in. I found the simple act of okay. Like I think even with that character, I kind of like the chain whip person whose name is now gone from my head. They're all numbers, by the way. So sure, you can tell me any. Yep, just say any number.
No, what about Mahina and Rem, the two most memorable characters in the game, because they're all outsiders,
cards, except for these two.
I think even the what's the word I'm looking for? The characters that use melee combat. I think even that combat feels very untactile. This is a game where combat on the best of days kind of feels like shit. That's as good as it offers. I think all of the ranged combat characters feel somehow even worse.
Nope, you're wrong again.
And the worst of that was certainly the cards.
I mean, they can be effective and also feel like shit.
Yeah, so that's the thing that I would say is that as you play more of the game, you realize that the ranged characters are immediately or vastly superior to the direct attacking characters. Because especially in those RTS missions, if you go into those with a fucking melee character, you're gonna have a bad time. It turns out that the AI in this game is dumb as shit, and what you actually want to do is you play a ranged character, and the two characters that are around you are fucking melee characters. Because you get to just hang back and let these AI dipshits do the tanking. But no, yeah, Ace is interesting in that he's considered a distance attacker, but he by far, when you upgrade it especially, has the best and most forgiving dodge. The problem is that he starts the game as like a glass cannon, and them giving you a character that can take like 2 hits is a bad feeling, man. But at least they had the wherewithal to, give you a armlet that lets you restore yourself.
So just to echo Jeff's point, the ranged characters are by far more efficacious at killing enemies than the melee characters are. You want to use the ranged characters to kill stuff. But simply attacking in this game feels bad. The game feels unresponsive in a lot of cases. The lock-on targeting is not good. It'll keep you locked onto enemies long after they're dead, which is a mechanic.
Yep.
Like you need to absorb their souls, but if you keep hitting the attack button, you will just keep wailing on a corpse until you let off the attack button. It does not know to switch the context for what that button should do in a timely fashion. So you are always, I felt like, fighting with the controls to get this game to do what you want it to do. It does not feel like a responsive action game in noticeable ways. Ranged characters have just pure advantages. Like there are enemies that are not at ground level and they get to attack them, and melee characters don't. So I think they are just strictly better. But Ace specifically, with his cards just flying all over the place and taking weird, like, drunken missile angles on enemies, it just feels like you're mashing on a button and maybe the attack will land, maybe it won't.
That's the entire game in general is you, until it really starts to hit home that you need to take advantage of these kill strikes for multiple enemies, it really is just mash, mash, mash. There's really no reward in trying to, like, time things like the game wants you to. It's oftentimes ancillary or not entirely necessary until you get to do the darkness that I started to do. And you shouldn't, because the darkness that I got into, you shouldn't do it. So yeah, I'm not saying you guys are wrong, but I'm saying you guys are wrong.
My preferred characters so far are King, who has two pistols, and I've just been kill-shotting things very easily with King. He's got higher HP than some of the other ranged characters, which was nice, and his bullets aren't drunken missiles, so they just go straight and hit the enemy accurately, which has been helpful. I've been having Sync, who runs around with the mace. She is awful to control. Never control her. But she is quite good as your melee dumbass to just, like, run up and soak up damage. She has decently high health and a lot of stun abilities, which when you stagger an enemy, they will become vulnerable to kill shots. So you don't even need to wait for the enemy to be vulnerable. She just makes them vulnerable. And my third character that is always there is Rem.
Yep, she's the designated mage character. She's really the only expressly mage character in the game. Most of these characters are... Oh, God, Flute Girl sucks ass, though. Holy shit.
Yeah, she's awful, but, like, she's the other designated healer.
Not true. You can graft heal spells onto other characters. They're just have fewer uses of it.
Those are the two that are the most, I thought.
So for me, it was pretty simple. Jack, Trey, Rem. Those are the three characters that I've gotten the most levels off of, and they all have their different uses. Rem is the designated mage. If you put the correct spell for the enemies that you're going up to, she one-shots them, and I've popped off the special little things that give her more mana, so she has over 1,000 mana. Bowboy, like I said, circle strafing. And also he is the best character for those RTS missions. And then Samurai Dude, though slow, he basically one-shots anything with his samurai sword.
Yeah, I mean, this game's not hard. It's not fun either.
There is a way to make it hard, but I don't know if you should. It's only because of how I played the game. But
no one should do that. Not enjoyable.
So, Jeff, what are some of the characters you gave a shot with? You said you don't like Card Boy, but you're an anti-cardman, so I'm not surprised to hear that you don't like it.
Yeah, so that's just it. I gave the pistol using one a shot.
That's King.
Let's go.
I tried all of them.
Yeah, like
I'm leveling all of my characters up, at least to make sure that they have levels, because there are times where you might have a character that you like, they get killed because sometimes this game just wants to one-shot you for the most bullshitty reason. And so you swap those characters with that have just died with characters that are in your rotation. And I will say this is the most counterintuitive system for using items I've ever seen in my fucking life. If you forget to equip a Phoenix down on a character that dies, they just don't get to revive. They don't. You got to remember to do that. You need to proc that shit before the battle. And if you forget to do it, which I constantly have done, you're fucked. It's dead. They're dead.
See, that's why I gave Rem the ability to give everyone re-raise, so that even if my characters die, they come back, which is a sick ability that she has. Seems messed up.
Yeah, that's a good ability to have. I also have it. But yeah, it's not a hard game if you do things properly, though. At the end of the day, and there are times where I think that this game just does the most bullshit in the world. Like there's some real fucking bullshit here. Just some real goddamn bullshit. Like, which leads us to a point. This game is meant to be played twice. Part of it is the social linking stuff, which we may or may not talk about today. We probably will. And then part of it is that it randomly puts in like optional bosses and optional confrontations with characters and enemies that cannot reasonably be beat in your first playthrough. Cue environment number 2 in the overworld, which has a bunch of behemoths that will just one-shot your characters if you bump into them. It's the second fucking environment in the overworld, and the game gives party-wiping TPK characters for you to fight.
Yeah, it sucks so bad.
Why?
Yuck.
Why?
It sucks so bad. This game's so bad. I mean, so the game starts you off with re-raise for like a few tutorial missions, and
that's a smart decision. Like that's a merciful thing. But I mean, that's like a smart call. Like it's a complicated game when you're first seeing this. Like the whole like, oh wait, I have to swap characters in. It's an unintuitive system. Oh, you're giving me the gimme that like I won't have to die during this tutorial mission. And then the armlet breaks and it immediately drops you into a boss fight. And you may or may not be prepared to deal with that boss fight. And you might just get a game over because you're still stuck with just 3 characters. Yeah, and I kind of got what the gimmick was, so I was fine. I beat the boss in my first try. But like you check like old game FAQs threads and people are like, how the fuck do you beat this first boss? I keep getting my ass handed to myself.
Well, it's because that first boss will one-shot you if it hits. You have to dodge its attacks, but if you don't, it will just one-shot you. Because it's like it drops a laser beam on your head, basically. And so you have to constantly be moving and then hitting at the right time, which up until that exact fight, nothing in the game cared really about whether you did the timing right. You just could overwhelm them with basic attacks. And this boss, you can't. It's a bad tutorial, I feel like. I died, and actually I forgot to save before that, so I had to do the tutorial all over again from scratch.
Oh, that's great.
Which was really annoying.
Do you have any like mechanical impressions, Jeff, to talk about? Like, was this an immediate like no likey, like, or was it like a slow like slow
no likey
time?
Yeah, it was fairly quick. Like the thing is, there's a brief shining moment. I'm not going to say it is good, but it was an interesting like. So I read the first sentence of the plot summary of the Final Fantasy type.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I want to say this. That intro cutscene, and they made this during the promotional images and like the promoting of this game. That intro cutscene where it's literally all of these kids that have gone to this military academy getting fucking wasted and murdered, and they're like screaming in agony as they deal with the consequences of war. There's something to that because it's pretty powerful.
It goes fairly hard.
The problem is, it goes hard. Like when you see that kid die on the corpse of this chocobo that he makes the point of saying that he loved raising chocobos, like you see this kid fucking die.
Yeah.
Like that is genuinely that is something they should have committed to. Like, oh, wait, what if Final Fantasy VIII, but these kids have to deal with the actual consequences with war, which is what it seemed like it was going to do.
Jeff,
and then
what did it do? What did you think it did?
I've lost track. What did I think what did?
The beginning of the game. Did that work for you? did the beginning of the game cutscene and all that setup, did it work for you?
If you had just done the cutscene, by which I mean the scene with the chocobo and the anguish, then we might have been onto something. The issue is they surrounded it with so much proper noun bullshit up front. They go so hard, so fast with it. It's fucking over, like, you know, and like this isn't fair, and people's standards change. But
they drop all of the proper nouns that even 13 held back on, because you get Lassie, Seeth, the fucking militessy fucking shit. Like, they drop even more proper nouns, Gino. You have to give this game credit. Like, they drop more proper nouns per minute in that opening cutscene than even Final Fantasy 13, which we already said had a proper noun syndrome problem.
Yeah. So go ahead, Jeff. Finish
with it. It's unbelievable. And then but then you get to this cutscene. It's like, okay, like this is going to be about, there's some human element, there's some feelings, and then like they give you the controls. Like, all right, let's get started, and you're just like haphazardly flinging these cards in this swimmy fucking empty flat PlayStation P portable world. And it just sucks all the fucking wind out of the room.
And then on top of that, Jeff, the dialogue with the characters kicks in, and it's like, wait, what are we doing with this like smarmy ass anime horse shit where these characters are all like communicating their anime tropiness?
Yeah.
Which gets worse when this mission is over and we go to the school. And it's like, wait, didn't we start with literally watching characters suffer from being victims of a war crime? Didn't that just happen?
Well, I think we should just emphasize, when we said all the proper noun bullshit, it's very hard to know who is attacking whom and why, which is pretty basic for if you're trying to convey stakes. You know, you can't just show me a bunch of people writhing in agony and be like, war's fucked up, huh? When I don't know who
I'm
is
actually fine with it as an opening cutscene. I'm gonna completely disagree with you. I think that it was fine in the opening cutscene and like actually communicating like, we are in the middle of a war. Here's some faceless mooks. Shit's bad. I'm actually totally fine with them doing that in the start. But then you're trying to, let me say this, then you're trying to get me to gravitate to what you're presenting as the core cast, and they're literally anime trope characters.
Not just the anime trope characters. That's the
problem for me. That's when it starts to break for me.
When you show me all of these characters who are dying, and I don't know what these nations are, they do almost no setup of the world. You can read off a script for 5 minutes trying to explain the world to me. That's not the same thing as actually communicating. You know, that's not the same thing. I know that this game doesn't know that, but in other games and in other pieces of media, they actually do a good job of explaining the context of what's happening. But if you're going to do a war is hell, man, isn't it just so terrible that there's all this suffering and all this death? You can't have a game whose central gameplay loop is just murdering people and then stealing their souls.
Well, you can kind of like, well, here's the thing. You kind of get where that mechanic ends up going, because it's the same mechanic from Strangers in Paradise, because that's the whole, like, it even has the particle effect that they ended up translating into Final Fantasy Origins.
Yeah, so but Strangers in Paradise,
if there's something nice to say, a mechanic from this game got used in a better game.
Yes, but the thing is, in Strangers in Paradise, it is being an absurdist game that doesn't. It's not trying to make you feel anything or say anything about anything.
I think that Strangers in Paradise. One of the other things that we're dancing around is that it's using these proper nouns from Final Fantasy 13, and it's not using them the same way as Final Fantasy 13.
It's a problem.
So, Lassie, Seeth, Falsi, they've been recontextualized. Like, Falsi in this game is not the same as what the Falsi were. And then, like, the pantheon of gods and this mythos, like a Lassie, is just a regular person. Because we see that Lady Setna, and she's like some sort of like super god character, like a superhero, and they all like, oh my god. And then there's like the Vermilion Bird Lassie. So you're giving us these same words that I don't want to say that I've memorized what like their context was in Final Fantasy 13. I played 3 of those goddamn games, and I still couldn't tell you what the fuck a Seath is. Well, I kind of can, but
They're zombies. They're crystal zombies.
they're crystal zombies, but they're not crystal zombies in this fucking game. And that's a problem.
Yeah,
You've taken all of these proper nouns that you're like you use the term piggybacking, right, Gino?
Yes.
And you've decided to not piggyback with these words that are primed for piggybacking for
You
your
made
no.
up. You made
You
the
made
words up.
You made
You
the
chose
words up.
them. Like you said, hey, you know what the connective tissue is going to be between 13 and Agito 13? Lassie and Seath. Oh,
You know,
do they mean the same thing? No.
So I'm pulling up some images to like add to like. So I ended up talking to some of like the NPCs, and I took some screen caps of my favorite absurdist sentences. So to add to Jeff, this is a sentence from talking to an NPC. The Militesi Empire has broken the Quipartite Crystal States Pact.
Yeah.
The
I talked to
Empire
that
deployed
NPC.
only one Lassie, but they had 2 fully functioning crystal jammers to block the powers of academia. What's academia? What? And then like it's not even like the shared location, and like it has like the Rubrum used an Ultima bomb powerful enough to obliterate an entire continent and was dropped on the Black Pristillilium of Lorica. Like, what the fuck
What?
is this? What are you talking about?
It's maddening.
It's so fucking funny, though. I can't help but laugh. We get presented with 3 nations that are tied into a war, and they're not even the countries that we talked about in the last 3 games that we've played up to this point, which up to this point, I think it was only 2 games or 1 game, but like still.
And also,
Oh
we're
man,
saying,
this game is wild.
there's a location in Final Fantasy 13 too called Academia, and it is spelled differently, and it is a completely different location that has nothing to do with this. Like, why would you keep? How did they decide which words stayed and which words goed? You know, like was it just they spun Tetsuya Nomura around 3 times and then he picked 5 words from a hat? Like what? It's just
Like they
gibberish.
keep mentioning and name dropping the Vermilion Bird Crystal, and then like how it's like the key to the Rubrum's ability to like fight back of this war. But we never like what is the Vermilion Bird? This isn't a character from Final Fantasy. It's nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
I mean, it's the
Jeff, did you like those weird like war map cutscenes where it's just endless like exposition, and it's like kind of somewhat like it reminded me of Valkyria Chronicles when it had the cutscenes that were like using like these empire maps showing like arrows and like armies converging on cities.
If I'd cared about any of it, that's just the thing. These are people setting aside, like, the game is bad, and I'm not even going to sit here and try to salvage it. I guess the part that bothers me about these games, long ago did I accept that not every Final Fantasy game is going to be even good, right? But these are people who have chosen to work at Square, or some iteration of it, and by that, I'm assuming they're familiar with their back catalog and familiar with some of the guts of why these games are good. Now, I understand that there's time and money and all sorts of reasons why games turn out bad and that people don't elect to make bad games. Like that, I know all of that, okay? But when you look at something like this that is so fucking graceless in the way it presents itself, and it's like you can see kind of small ways that you could improve this. And some of them like wind up saving time. Like take that entire opening cutscene, get rid of all of the breathless fucking exposition in it, and just show the cool looking movie, and then just basically on-ramp things a little bit more slowly, right? Like, does that make this necessarily something that plays in the sort of Monster Hunter PSP space? I don't know. Like, and clearly that's the game they kind of wanted to make here, but it just winds up being so far from anything that I want. Like so far. And that's even if it played well, which in my hands it does not. Like, the entire package, when you look at it, is just miserable. And it's miserable not in the way that, like, the truly, truly bad games in this series are. Like, this doesn't wind up at the actual bottom of the list of shit that we're going to have, if I have any say. It kind of winds up in, like, the actual worst spot in the list, which is maybe 5 spaces above that, where it's just, like, forgettable dreck. Like, the entire thing is just a smooth paste of mush. It was very easy to put down, very easy to forget. ZP, I know you engaged with this more than me. So it'll shock no one in the audience that once again,
Jeff, I've sometimes joke. I know you like a book. Braden and I have already taken bets, and unfortunately, I can't get him to take this bet. No one thinks you're gonna finish this game. I'm just gonna put it out there, not to say that I'm trying to insult you as a human being. I love you, Jeff. I've met you in person.
I know
you're not gonna, buddy. Yeah. I know you're not gonna finish this fucking game.
That's fine.
I'm just gonna put it out there.
I've learned to manage my time better.
Yeah.
I am sorry I am better at that than you are.
I don't value. Hey, I value my time. I've just found a way to do grinding in this game that requires me to literally park a character in front of a door, and I have the game run while I'm sleeping, and then I come back and I have $300,000 and a character that's at level 30 in hour 14 of the game.
Yeah.
So,
look,
you know,
we are all busy adults. I, however, unlike you and Braden and Gino, I guess, I have to share a living room. Like, that's a shared space. So if I'm going to be out there, I am not going to be.
You would be very embarrassed if you had to have your partner see you play Type Zero. I get you.
Au contraire.
I
watched all of the five.
This
all
is
of the
one of
Type
the most
Zero she has seen.
played.
We have shared the Type Zero universe in our home for the time that it will be played.
Have you shown her the panty shots in this game, which are super gratuitous and come out of nowhere?
We went right up in that hole, or just about into it anyway. Because why not? You know, where it's
so there's fan service in this game, right, Gino?
Like you wouldn't believe.
Boy, there's so much fan service in this game.
I just wanted to call one thing out: the 4 crystals. They're the 4 guardians, or the 4 symbols of mythological. They're Chinese constellations. The 4 guardians of the cardinal directions. The azure dragon of the east, the vermilion bird of the south, the white tiger of the west, and the black tortoise of the north. So they are doing a play on some Chinese mythology here. That's what they're going for. Now, if you don't know that, I knew that because I watched Digimon as a child. But if you didn't know that, these characters, these locations and their names make no sense. Because this game it just takes for granted that you're going to know this mythology and doesn't really bother explaining to try to give context to it. So they're just throwing around these mythological terms the whole time, just assuming that you'll get it. Or you could go to the Codex. Which there's an ample
Which you need to populate by getting optional cutscenes, which you may or may not know, and then you have to scroll through this codex, which is a fucking pain in the ass to use. This game is a nightmare. I love it. I fucking think it's so fucking funny to play this game, but it's a nightmare. I'm not gonna say it's good. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not. But it's funny as shit. It's funny. It's funny how incompetently made that this game is at times. And it's just like, there were too many cooks in the kitchen, guys. I think that's what this was. Is there were too many cooks. Because you've got like the Nomura-isms here with like, you were trying to make a mobile game because Square Enix thought that mobile games would like be the future of video games. And then you have like the, oh my God, we need to salvage this 13 franchise by doing something. There's so much here. But Gino, I'm sorry. We got to talk about this. The fan service in this game is gross as shit. These kids, they make the point of pointing out that these kids are like teenagers? And yet every female character except one has a super short skirt where the simple process of doing that character's dodge will show you their panties. And there's even one character, Sync, who, upon collecting the souls of other characters, will result in her picking a wedgie out of her ass, which then displays her polka dot panties in front of the camera. And I ended up looking this up, but the person who ended up doing the panties was actually a female employee at Square. And the way that she apparently presented this to Nomura, and Nomura's response was like, "You're absolutely right. I support you." And she's like, "Well, if you're going to give them a skirt, you got to let me model their panties, right?" And that's how that went. I think that the point that this game really breaks is that first scene when you're in academia and you have the characters in an environment that feels directly lifted from Final Fantasy VIII, which is the classroom.
Yep.
And you have this fucking mass dude do a lesson. And it is the tropiest, smarmiest, just fucking biggest waste of time, comedic relief scene after we have literally seen characters die from war crimes.
And they explain that every character who dies is wiped from memory of every other person in the world.
So yeah, Gino, I guess you and Jeff are kind of equipped to talk about this. The way that this game evokes Final Fantasy VIII might quietly be the most offensive part of this game.
I hadn't really thought of that.
It is so shamelessly pulling the heart of Final Fantasy VIII and doing such an incompetent job of it that I got so angry in playing this game at times.
Yeah, Jeff.
When they tried to explain that cemetery, I put the controller down for a good 10 minutes, and Ashley's in the room, and I was like, because she wasn't really paying attention. She was just like, "Yeah, this seems kind of bad," and I was just like, the shit they just said about this cemetery and about how this works in universe is some of the most gonzo stupid shit I have ever heard in my life from a game. It's insane what it's trying to say. It's crazy shit.
Gino, we made the point of saying there are little clues that these characters have a memory problem, and the summons are actually eating their memory. It's a bad plot element that there are hints of it, though, right? There's foreshadowing that this whole orphanage scene in Final Fantasy VIII is going to happen.
Yes, there is.
There's no foreshadowing in this game. There's literally a scene where they're like, "Yo, guys, we're being genetically modified by Big Booby Lady, and we don't understand what's happening because we lose our memories, yo, and we don't really connect the dots that we're being exploited child soldiers."
I mean, they call Big Booby Science Lady mom, and then they say in the very first cutscene,
which is another Final Fantasy VIII-ism that pissed me the fuck off. It's yo, can you be any more shameless? It's oh wait, you're calling the person who's raising you mom? Fuck.
Yeah, it's just a lesser Final Fantasy VIII in a lot of ways, but whenever someone dies, everyone forgets that they ever existed, and so we write their names down on stuff and find their dog tags because otherwise we won't know if they died. And we don't know, but also we wouldn't care because we don't remember them. There's an interesting kernel of an idea in there, right?
Yeah,
there's
an idea there. I'll give you that.
Chaos idea.
It's an idea that's
isn't it
the
plot point there, Gino, then is oh, you're child soldiers. You are presented as the good guys, and you slowly but surely realize, oh wait, we're the villains, and the people who are resisting us are actually the good guys. That's the plot point there, right?
That's what I assume. That's where I assume it's
make
going.
It happen, or they don't make it happen soon enough.
That's where I assume it's going. I'm at chapter 2.
And instead, what we get is just a bunch of bullshit anime tropey bullshit. Where every time you're in academia, it's a comedy bit, and it's why? Why are we doing this? This is a waste of my fucking time. Every time that you get a lesson with that fucking Mog, that Moogle, I want to fucking die. Like,
So-
those scenes are so bad.
They're really bad. I just want to say on the you're forgetting everyone thing, like that's a cool premise. But your cool premise, the outcome of your cool premise can't be, isn't it real fucked up this scenario we've created? Like, I don't feel like I've taken anything away from this weird, fucked up world they've made. And they're just like, man, isn't it tragic that these kids forget their friends when they die? Isn't it fucked up the rules we created for this world? Anyway, here's, a Moogle who's going to tell you what your missions are. And he's going to
So
say
I guess
Kupo,
that
Kupo.
leads to like probably, I hate to use this term, but I'm going to invoke it. The ludonarrative dissonance. That's a callback
Yes.
for people like you, me, and Gino and Jeff. The way that this game is actually structured, like structurally, is story mission, social link sequence, story mission, social link sequence. And that structure inevitably leads to this awkwardness where the juxtapositions just completely shatter. Because everything that you do in academia, they like pursuing these social links, learning more about your characters that you're a part of, and then also accomplishing side quests. The amount of time that the game gives you is so punishingly limited that you feel like you're only getting the tip of the iceberg, which I realize they did on purpose so as that you would play the game at least twice. But that presents a problem in that the side quests provide like incentives and like equipment for characters that then becomes impossible to get, and you can't just buy them from the store. And then also, like sometimes side quests and character interactions just disappear forever if you didn't do it during the right sequence. And so like the structure for this game doesn't work for me at all. I don't know how you felt, Jeff, but like the social linking stuff in that academia world, I thought was just genuinely like vapid.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's just a cutscene. Sometimes it's just a cutscene. And it's like the most like, I want to rip my eyeballs out because what I'm seeing just is pain.
One more factor that made it very, very easy to put this down, the desperate wandering around. I didn't even find navigating the space to actually be particularly fun. This is another... I have put some time into all of the versions of Persona 3 somewhat recently, with that Persona 3 Reload being on Game Pass. And the thing I have realized is, like, it is very cool that they modeled that school, right? In that Persona 3 Reload. You can walk around in there, it's all nice. And I want to do that once. And then I want to hit square and pull up that fast travel menu and just like get the fuck on with my day. So there's a little bit of that in this game. There's like a little teleport area in the school, but you can also just kind of wander around in there. And I find the wandering around kind of being in the space, like one of, the things that could be like a perk of a game that has a virtual space in it, to be kind of miserable. Like they've completely missed the mark. So the idea that I'm going to like engage in this space that I find virtually zero fun to be in, that I'm going to do that for any particular amount of time is buck wild. A losing proposition.
And Gino, as someone who also did the side quests that require you to go out in the overworld in optional sequences, the way that the game like punishes you for doing those, which is like subtracting like 6 to 8 hours by default. Fuck that.
Yeah. Doing the side quests means that you don't get to do the social link stuff. And also, the combat and the side quests in this game suck. They're all fetch quests. They're garbage.
They're all fetch quests. They're garbage. There's even... This is where the darkness happens with me. I did the expert trials.
Why?
Which are usually 20 to 30 levels above you. And they're like hard mode missions that allow you to access towns and cities earlier than when you progress them in the story. Now this is the darkness, guys. There was a expert mission that I took like 2 to 3 tries to get, but it provides the summon of Firebrand within Chapter 2. So once I got Firebrand, as Jeff, I think you talked about when we played Zelda 2, a horrible mental calculus kicked into my head. Because the way that these summons work in this game is that you summon a big dude and it kills the character who summoned them. Firebrand is a level 60 summon that I got in Chapter 2. And then, Chris ZombiePie Redacted's brain, a light bulb has gone out. What if, for all of the missions moving forward, I structure it where the worst characters are up on top and the best characters on bottom? And I'm using the worst characters in my party to simply summon a dude that kills everything in one punch. And you are here to be burnt and killed so as that I can summon my dude to kill this boss in 2 hits. And so I completely negated the game's difficulty even quicker and easier than you two. And basically, these characters became one-use items. And then on top of that, I continued to progress those expert trials and doing missions that I was not supposed to do until playthrough 2 by just summoning this big furry dude, which was Ifrit.
Cool. And that's at least part 1 of Type 0. We might do another part, Jeff, if you cannot tolerate this game and ZP and I have to discuss the story at you. You're definitely more than welcome to
just
to
be
do
bewildered.
so.
Jeff, I would say, Jeff, can you? I know you value your time. I love you, Jeff. Jeff, I get you're going through some stuff.
What are you?
Promise me this. There's a moment, and I know that this is a hard ask. I get it. I get it. Can you tell that that maybe this sour was a little high potent?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely can. Go ahead.
So, I need you to get to the part in Chapter 4. I realize Chapter 4 is a lot. There's a part in Chapter 4 where something happens that I think will make you laugh when you go to the Imperial capital.
Or watch it on YouTube.
No, you actually have to see it as a scene by playing it. Jeff, get to Chapter 4, please.
Okay.
I need you to get to Chapter 4. I know that you're at Chapter 2. I will also say this as someone who's on Chapter 7, and there are only 8 chapters. This game is top-heavy in that actually Chapters 1 through 3 are the longest chapters in the game.
Oh.
And the game actually, the chapters get significantly shorter. There is Chapter 6, which is literally one mission for an entire chapter. So the game...
That's good to know.
Once you get past Chapter 3, you're actually... Even though this is an 8-chapter game, you're actually almost at the halfway point.
Noted.
Which is a weird thing, and it just communicates like they didn't know what the fuck they were making. And they lost the plot. Like, this whole chapter system, I also want to say, makes sense as a mobile game that was episodic, similar to, like, Crisis Core.
It
like,
doesn't
it makes
in the
sense to
form
me.
we're playing it.
It doesn't in the form that we're playing it. And then also the amount of grinding in this game makes perfect sense as like something that I'm playing on my PSP while I'm on a bus commuting to my job and then back again. And yet
that's not
the version of the game that we played and then the version of the game that you could play outside of Japan, that we didn't get that. Because again, the PSP game didn't come out outside of Japan. Only the PS4 game and then the PC release. Which I'm kind of like amazed that like they haven't even bothered with the Switch port, but maybe they think that this thing is so damaged goods that they don't even want to bother with that.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that is it for part 1 of Type 0. Thank you, ZP.
Join our Discord to see the multiple panty shots that I have created as wallpaper. If you want them white, if you want them pink, if you want them polka dot, I'm your guy. I got you covered. Hey, Jeff, would it surprise you that Hajime Tabata, the second game that he ever made was a Deception game? So the guy who made this game made Deception.
Okay. Yeah. Fair play.
Which also has a little bit of fan service in there.
Yeah, it's a game kind of for perverts, you know. It's a thinking perverts game.
I got
Thank
your
you.
panty shots if you want them, guys. Join our Discord.
you.
Gino, this is how we get the monies.
Thank you,
Is
Jeff.
Join my Discord.
Thank
Join this
you,
Discord
Jeff.
for panties.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
And
Thank-
thank you.
Ugh.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
No, we're good.
And thank you, dear listeners. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show, deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and you can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. We'll be back with more Type 0 next time we do a Final Fantasy show, I think.
Sink
Till
is
next
polka
time.
dot. Queen
next
has
time.
white.
Peace.